Morning. If you've glimpsed at the last few sharings I've done, you can see that I'm documenting a process. And step one in this process, and when this started, I wasn't sure. It's step by step. I didn't know what was next. Literally didn't know. It's not like a continuity, a plan. The plan was no plan, as they say. But the first thing I had to work on, I called it cultivating indifference, because I documented how that, not particularly in the political arena, that I've been too a little emotionally involved, emotive. Somehow it was staked. Somehow it seemed important who was leading America, or the lack of leadership. But literally, I couldn't do anything about it other than fret, stew and fret. So this cultivating indifference to me meant that somehow it had slipped up. I was emotionally involved. Emotive energy was placed into this political arena. And it was fed by my doses on YouTube of CNN and MSNBC. Which kind of just documented the daily the daily adventures of Donald J. Anyway, this was my message, to cultivate indifference. So that meant I had to work on being indifferent. Cultivating I particularly like because it has to do with preparing the plowing, preparing the soils, plowing the old. And if you wanted to, it just dawned on me. Put manure, put all that shit on top. And the shit I'm talking about is all the involvement in the secular political world. Take that shit. Take that fertilizer. Plow it and mix it into the soil. Use it to your... Don't waste any time or effort feeling badly about the energy that you put, this indirected energy and this emotional attachment. Don't feel guilty about it. Use it. Use it as the shit that it is. Fertilizer. Cultivate. Plowing. Mixing it in with the loam. The rich, beautiful, natural soils. Plow it up. Incorporate it. Include it. Most important, utilize it. Take something that was seemingly misdirected time and effort and repurpose it. So cultivating, prepare the rows, plant the seeds, bury the seeds again, constantly water, constantly weed. Take any of those things that are growing up, that growing out of your project. And my harvest was going to be complete indifference. So this is the first state I had to reach. And then the second one was a little epiphany of, actually the second one was, I was talking about words lead to action, but I'm going to go into that again. I'm saving that for the next sharing that I've already planned. But for my purposes today, I want to go in from cultivating indifference, harvesting it, using it for nurturement and sustaining the body. My body is sustained by indifference. And then when I reached this state where I said, okay, it was a pretty rapid process, 24 hours. I guess it had to happen quickly. I guess this was a message that needed to be absorbed, understood. So then I went to sitting by the river. And this is when I had my epiphany of the witness that it was always outside of myself, always watching down. And I had a pretty much 24/7 running dialogue, both ways. It wasn't just one way. Me speaking to the witness would either initiate or simply respond, reply to my running inner dialogue. And this running inner dialogue is different than the monkey mind. The monkey mind, remember, is scattered, it's haphazard, no rhyme or reason. But this inner dialogue was specifically conversing or responding to the witness. And all of a sudden, here I am sitting beside the river of life, on the riverbank, peaceful, content, whole, watching life go by. Life with no beginning and no end. Where I was on the side of the river, I could just watch the flow. And then it dawned on me, how can I separate from life? I am life. I'm in that river, but yet I'm experiencing myself outside the river. How is this possible? I don't know. But it was the purpose. As I understand it now, there's probably more that I'll be able to understand from the purpose of this event. But all of a sudden, the witness and the self were one and the same. And the truth is, they always were one and the same. But it was my limited understanding that I separated it. This witness has been with me from my earliest memories of the crib, being up in the corner, watching. And as I learned to verbalize this verbal communication through non-verbal means. How's that? Because I wasn't saying words, but the words were passing between us. Nonetheless, just as in a conversation, but it's only my epiphany was, that's when the witness joined the self. where it always belonged, but it was, again, it was me, it was my limitations, it was my lesson to have it separated and to see that the witness was with me as I watched life go by. And any loneliness that I might have felt, which I didn't honestly feel any, but if I might have had an inkling of loneliness, of separation, this union overshadowed any feeling I might have had of alarm or concern being separated from the river of life. And as the witness just came and settled within, took its rightful place, then the glimpse I had is that this is the route, this is the path, this is the understanding, this is the event that will unlock clarity for me. Now, I had no idea, I still have no idea as I'm sharing with you now, what this clarity means. What will be the consequences of being in a state of clarity? All I have is the understanding. And when I did a video, a short video, 33-minute, not short, because I did a video called Unlocking Clarity, and I had to go back and listen to see if I claimed an understanding of what it meant to be clear, because several days later, I can say unequivocally, I have absolutely no idea what clarity means. I just discovered how to reach the state of grace when you can be blessed with it, when you can incorporate it to your essence. And now here I was, and needless to say, this is something that as long as my memory can go back, particularly my 33 years of rigorous, dedicated Renzai Zen, by the book, straight spine, sitting in full lotus, and honestly trying to get back, I spent most of my time trying to get past the discomfort of, number one, I have a crooked spine, I'm trying to keep it straight, and number two, maintaining the full lotus. I'd have to adjust somewhere after half an hour to a half lotus. But my takeaway from this primarily was one of discomfort. And somehow that doesn't seem to be the aim. But I tolerated it because I thought it was a mind over matter. I thought it was about discipline. And other than my Zen studies, discipline has never really had a place in my life. Self-disciplines, yes, I've had attempts, but they've never yielded much. But discipline from the outside, rules and regulations, absolutely not. I'm a rule breaker. That's why I've never been a follower. And even the one time that I'll talk about it, when I was a follower, I created my own rules. Not only did I create my own rules, but I was blessed by my teacher telling all the people that were affronted by me breaking rules. I didn't flaunt them. I didn't say no. I took the route of passive resistance, my favorite, most effective, and just didn't do them. No announcement. No verbal confrontation. No confrontation whatsoever. I just didn't do them. And it's funny how it takes people a while to recognize. It started with my first wife, quite honestly, because she would say something to me, I would say, and to her a long time, is that a yes or a no? Maybe. I didn't ever want to get stuck with a definitive yes or a definitive no, because that puts... I wasn't quite a slippery sort. I'm a Pisces, the fish, after all, and try to catch a fish. We're pretty slippery dudes. And I used it to pretty much ignore rules, no matter where they came from. Of course, I've talked about I paid a price, but I was only willing, more than willing. To be true to myself and not following rules was more important than any punishment, any retribution I might suffer from not following the rules. Even look and adding them up and comparing them, I'm saying that I could not have done it any differently. So this kept me from really didn't want to join groups because the hallmarks of groups is rules, after all. So here I was. Clarity was closer than it's ever been because I found the secret, I unlocked the secret of where clarity lies, the access to clarity. It certainly never resides, again speaking personally for me, within taming, conquering, silence, anything to do with shutting the mind at any level. Both the useful level of that as a tool for finding, sorting, filing, and storing useful information in the hopes that information, in the experience that information, the best of information transformed into knowledge was the key to knowledge, and the best of the knowledge was the key to wisdom. This is how I was accumulating wisdom. I don't think you'd be surprised of the reams and reams and reams of information I had to go through to the ultimate cultivation, the ultimate mining of a single nugget of wisdom. But this part in my mind, I certainly was going to see only tool in my toolbox, essentially, in this spiritual journey. So the idea to conquer, ignore it, get rid of it, just didn't make sense in that regard. And then the monkey mind I had already I already accepted it and valued it as an infinite source of amusement to keep me from being so serious, to keep me from taking myself so seriously. I'm a serious soul, but Dhammo appearing to me as a jester, a court jester, a Western medieval court jester, continually somersaulting, and as he was somersaulting, simultaneously a non-stop dialogue. And it's interesting because Milafo, the laughing, the smiling Buddha, seemed to be that was the source of a sense of humor, of lightening up. But for me, it was the stern Dhammo, who only appears stern to get your attention. But underneath, he's this court jester. At least this was my experience of him. And I've talked about it, and I'll probably talk about it some more. But this is all leading up to what I talked about my previous. I had to skip a day. I told you I spent the day in meditation. I didn't know where I was going, and sitting for 20 minutes, it already hit me. And then I kept working on it. I sat yesterday for close to 5 hours, a 3-hour, and then a 2-hour follow-up. But what came next to me was after detachment. Detachment seemed the next step. How am I going to unlock clarity? Detach yourself from everything, but most importantly, and particularly, detach yourself from any expectations of what clarity is, what clarity will mean, how you will be, how your life will be living in a state of clarity. I had to detach. And detach is just as strong as part of the process. I went through unencumbered. That means that the consequences, the results, the speculation didn't matter. And this was the unencumbered, the loosening and the release of the weight on my shoulders. But then the next step was detachment. So it's progressive, if you see, at least in my mind. Cultivate indifference. Disengage. To be unencumbered. And now finally, detachment. Okay, so here I am. Detached. Open. Without expectations. Long past desires. So now what? And the next step just might be the most difficult. Prepare the vehicle. This is the title of today's sharing. Prepare the vehicle. Now this is my homework. This is what I have to do before I'm gifted with the experience of clarity. I have to prepare the vehicle, meaning my body, my mind, my being. Obviously, it meant to me, it included raising my vibratory levels of all three aspects: body, mind, and soul. The three aspects of a being. I had to raise the vibratory state of the vehicle. This countenance, this face, this body, that's forming, that's lips are forming words and sharing. This is what is next. And at this stage of my development, I'm only aware of one way to begin to continue, never to be completed. There's your vibratory state can improve, can get higher, clearer, all infinitely is the word. There's no, oh, I've reached the ultimate vibratory state. Absolutely not. It's beyond imagination. The vibratory state. As I'm saying these words, I'm visualizing beings that are existing in higher realms of vibratory states. And it's hierarchical. So many things are hierarchical. As I reach one, I realize this one, and ad infinitum. And it's humbling, because no matter how far I think I've come, there's a long ways to go. I mean, what could be longer than infinity? So then I have to think about the levels. I talked about the physical level. Well, it's interesting. I've been working on these things before I knew that they were going to be required of me. So I didn't have to start at ground zero. I've been taking care of my body. I've been nurturing my body. I put a little bit of weight on, and I know the way to remove the weight. The weight is always just a barrier between me and the outside world. I always thought that the fatter I was, the less the outside world would covet me. Because for better or worse, we think less of the portly folks. And it's on us. The onus is on us, not them. But speaking from a personal level, I had carried 30 kilos. Then as I sit looking at you, and again, it was my armor. It was my protection from intimate relationships, male-female relationships. Not too many girlfriends that bald. I can't do much about being bald, but the weight is within my purview. but I have the most wonderful partner that one could ever desire. So none of this is motivated by being more attractive to the finer sex. It has to do with being healthier. It's preparing the vehicle, the physical vehicle. Now, the mental vehicle, I had this little epiphany about words and actions. So it involved a careful consideration of the words that come out of my mouth, because they have actions that result in consequences. Just as you throw a pebble in a still water, the concentric circles continue well past the limitations of the body of the water to continue to go out, and it has some type of cumulative effect on the world around you. So, consequences of words. And I was cultivating this by the understanding that the time for words from others, no matter how well intended, no matter how highly evolved the words of the soul that shared them, was a time for me to be independent, to have no dependence on the words of any other. And also to be free from the actions, no matter how well intended, to be free from the action, the consequences of their words. Now I considered at that time, does this mean that I will need to be silent? Well, this is what I'm working on. But the answer, the immediate answer, is not yet. Now's not the time. I have more to share and more to say. And this is the preparation to raise the vibratory state of my spiritual being, is giving freely, without expectations, what I've learned. So through sharing, through these videos, I'm in the process of raising my own vibrations.